13 of Genesis. So Genesis chapter 13. Abram was ejected from Egypt. He was sent away by Pharaoh. Uh, Pharaoh did not want to see Abram and his wife Sarah and see any more of these plagues that had come upon them. And he did not kill Abram, and he did not take back the gifts that he had given him, but he did eject him from his country. So in chapter 13, we read, "So Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the Negeb." So through all this, Lot was with Abram and Sarai. They never mentioned him because he never really had much to do with what was going on at the time. This incident in Egypt really had to do with Abram, Sarai, and the Pharaoh. So a Lot is not mentioned, but Lot was with them. And we were that is confirmed as we begin chapter 13. So he's with them, and they travel up from Egypt into the Negeb. This is the wilderness, the southern part of Israel. Now, Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. The Bible's never told us prior to this that Abram was rich. This is the first mention of this. So it is thought that his riches came from Pharaoh. We will see 400 years later that the Israelites will leave Egypt again and be rich in plundering the Egyptians. Right when the Israelite slaves leave Egypt after the plague strike and Pharaoh ejects them from Egypt, at least temporarily. Then he sends his army after them to kill them, but he sends them out. They were to ask all of their neighbors for cloth, for money, for jewels, for all kinds of precious things, and the people just gave them freely because they just wanted them out of their country and to leave. So the Israelites plundered the Egyptians. Abram does a similar thing here. So their forefather plunders Pharaoh. He leaves with riches. He did not come in with riches, but he leaves with riches in silver and gold, and also livestock. And is it a good thing to have riches? It is sometimes, but sometimes it's more of a dangerous thing and more of a snare, as we see going forward. And he journeyed on from the Negeb as far as Bethel to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai. So if we read chapter 12, and where Abram enters the promised land, where God shows him, he walks the breadth of it. He builds an altar to the Lord, and he at that time was walking with the Lord, right? He was walking closely with God. He was trusting God, obeying God, going to the places God told him to go. And then he had this slip up, this backsliding, where he did not put his faith in the promises of God. He trusted his own cunning and his own plans and his lies and half truths for his own benefit, and that was not something that was very honorable. Certainly, it was not honorable in the sight of anyone, especially of God. But now that he has left Egypt, he's going back to the place where he started, where God spoke to him and where he built that first altar, to the place where he had made an altar at the first. And there Abram called upon the name of the Lord. So Abram is now calling on God, trusting in God. He's walking with God again. He's starting over again after this slip up. So, and Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At that time, the Canaanites and Perizzites were dwelling in the land. It's interesting that there were not strife and conflict between Abram and the Canaanites and Perizzites, or Lot and the Canaanite and Perizzites, but the strife is with each other because both have extensive livestock. They're both wealthy in livestock. Abram also is wealthy in silver and gold, we're told. It does not say that of Lot, but apparently Abram has shared his wealth, some of his wealth, with Lot, because why would Lot have lots of livestock and shepherds working for him if not for Abram's generosity, but this is what we read, that now that Abram is returning to the land that God gave him, he is rich now in livestock, in silver, and in gold. So even though Abram did not trust God in this incident in Egypt, he is still blessed by God. And that is just like God, that First Timothy tells us, if we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself. That God's love for Abram is not based on his works. It's not that, well, God will love Abram as long as he honors him and trusts him. If he ever slips up, then he gets the punishment and the wrath end of God. But God loves Abram even when he slips up and shows a lack of faith, and blesses him in spite of his failures. And that is how it is with us. When we're born again, we're children of God. There are times we're going to mess up. We're not going to trust God fully. We're going to be tempted. We're going to sin and backslide. But God does not destroy us at those moments. His desire is to restore us and to continue to bless us despite our actions. It is not like the Hindu ideas of karma. Instant karma does not get us when we slip up. So now Abram has gone back to the place where he started and is at that first altar that he made to the Lord. When David sinned and was confronted with a sin, he immediately repented and began restoring his relationship with God. When Peter slipped up and sinned and denied his Lord, his response was different from the other person who betrayed his Lord, Judas Iscariot, whose response after throwing the money at the temple was to go and hang himself and perish. Peter did not end that way. He was restored. God brought him back into fellowship with him. The Lord appeared to him and told him to go back to Galilee. So the disciples went back to Galilee, and we hear, the stories about the fish and the loaves at the seashore in Galilee after Jesus tells them to cast their nets into the water, even though they hadn't caught anything all night. That they kind of go back to where they started again, where the ministry first started, where they first met Jesus, where Jesus called Peter and Andrew and James and John. And then he gave him his commission. Abram does a similar thing where he goes back to where he started and reestablishes his right relationship with God. So when we slip up too, we should do the same. We should return to God, not fear that God's going to hate us and abandon us because we've sinned. That is not how God treats his children. Those who are not his children destroy themselves, but those who are believers, who are truly born again, who are children of God, then will be restored if we return to him and trust in him. We should, like Abram, go back to that when we first walked with the Lord and retrace our steps. Now there's a difference, though. At this time, of course, Abram and Lot have too much flocks, and they're not being supported by the amount of pasture land in this place where they were previously able to live without any difficulty. Now there's fighting between the herdsmen of Lot and the herdsmen of Abram, and Abram does not want this strife to spread and lead to direct conflict with Lot himself. So he proposes in verse 8, then Abram says to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen." Now, Abram is very generous now. He's not trusting himself, and he's not asserting his rights. His right as the elder is to choose the best land for himself and tell Lot to take what's second best. After all, Lot has everything that he has because of Abram. Abram was a father figure to Lot after Lot's father died young. Haran died even before his father and left his son as an orphan. So Abram took him with him. So Abram had adopted Lot in a way. Well, what we're seeing here as they separate is that this is the last kinsman that Abram has, and now he's going to be separate from him. There might have been a thought in Abram's mind that Lot would be the heir, and the inheritance that God was promising to Abraham and his descendants was going to be through Lot. But that is not going to be the case, as Lot now is going to be leaving the promised land because he's going to choose the land that's outside of Canaan, right? That's what Lot's going to see and desire. But here Abram is giving him the choice. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left. Again, Abram is very generous. He's not choosing and leaving the leftovers for Lot. He is giving Lot first choice. And instead of saying, "No, Abram, you're my uncle, and you've given me so many things. I'll just you decide, and I'll go where you say to go." But instead, Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. The Lord said to Abram after Lot had separated from him, "Lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward, and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring can be counted. Arise, walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I will give it to you." So Abram moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre that are at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. So after Abram gives Lot the choice, he chooses the best, most verdant, the greenest, the most abundant and fruitful land for himself, which was this valley of the Jordan River. And at that time, it looked, and it's compared to the Garden of Eden, it's compared to Egypt. Egypt was a beautiful place because God says he's going to send you to a place not like the verdant valleys of Egypt, which has the Nile Delta with the rich soil and the water, but to a place that's not at all like that. Canaan is not like the Garden of Eden in any way. But that was the promised land. That is the land that God chose. It is better to let God choose than for us to choose for ourselves. We always choose the wrong thing, as Lot did. Lot chose by his sight. He looked. He thought he saw what was desirable and good, but he chose poorly. He chose what was wicked, evil, and soon to be destroyed. Whenever we choose the world over God, we're choosing something that might look good for the moment, but will lead to destruction. Something that is not going to last very long. God is going to destroy this world, and he will make a new one. But the world, everything we can see with our eyes is going to be passing away. If we choose that, what we see with our eyes, instead of trusting in God, we should not live by sight, but by faith. Abram is a man of faith. Even though he slipped up in Egypt, now he's living by faith. He's trusting God. Lot is trusting his eyes and making his decisions based on what he sees with his eyes, and that is not a good thing. We have examples of this earlier in Genesis. In Genesis chapter 1:6, don't have to turn to it, Rob. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. My computer's freezing up. In Genesis 6, when man began to multiply in the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. What we see, what we desire with our eyes can be deceiving. It could be very dangerous and lead to sin and destruction. In 1 John chapter 2, verse 16 says, "For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and the pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world." Lot couldn't know the future, that God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. He did not know the people of Sodom at that time. There's no way for him to have known that. But he just chose what looked good to his eyes, didn't seek apparently God's counsel, but just went ahead and made his decision from what he saw with his own eyes, and trusted what he saw. And again, we see the results of his decision later, as opposed to Abram. So when this happens, when Abram now is separated from his kinsmen, as God told him to do from the beginning, right? Told him to separate himself from his kinsmen, to leave the land that he was in, go to the place that God is choosing for him. This has finally occurred now, that his last kinsman has left. That Abram is alone in the world, and he has only God to trust in now. God speaks to him. So the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, "Lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring can also be counted. Arise, walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I will give it to you." So we know Abram believed God. We know that Abram trusted God. We read that Abram is the father of faith. In Galatians chapter 3, verse 6, it says, "Just as Abram believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness, know then that it is those of faith who are the sons of Abraham. And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, preached the gospel beforehand to Abraham, saying, In you shall all the nations be blessed. So then, those who are of faith are blessed along with Abraham, the man of faith." So it is possible to be a man of faith, to be of faith, and yet fail in faith at times, as Abram did, and will do so again. He does not just fail once. We know that this will be repeated. We know that Peter denied Christ not just once, but 3 times, and yet God forgave him. And that just speaks to his mercy, his patience. It's not like us. Most of us would give people 1 chance, 2 chances, and after that, cut them off. But God is amazing, and He is merciful, and He is good. And even though we fail in faith, we are faithless. He is faithful, and He cannot deny Himself. He just desires to bless His children. That does not mean that we have license to sin and take advantage of God's mercy. That is a very foolish thing. And if we would think in those terms, that one has to wonder if we really are His children. But we see in Abram's conduct, he is faultless. In Romans chapter 12, we're told in verse 17, "Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all." He did not do that in Egypt, but he does that here with his nephew. He does what is honorable in the sight of all. "If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God. For it is written, Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord." So Abram models this, that his desire and his conduct is to live peaceably with all. He does not want strife between himself and with Lot. He does not exert his rights as the elder over Lot to tell Lot where to go and to take what is best for himself. But he behaves in a way that is exemplary and generous, and shows that his trust is not in what he sees. His trust is not in what is obvious to his eyes and his senses and his reasoning, but to trust that God will provide for him what he needs. Something he did not do in Egypt when the famine came. But here he trusts God, and God blesses him by giving him all the land he could see in all these different directions. He goes up to that hike and looks around north, south, east, west. All that land was given to him and to his descendants forever. And we know that this is through his offspring, which will ultimately be Jesus Christ, the one through whom the world, or all the families of the world, will be blessed, is through Jesus Christ. We understand that. It's not through other Jewish people, as great as they might be, as much as they may contribute to the world, to art and science and whatever else. But this is all through Jesus Christ, that he's blessing all families of the earth. So Abraham believes God, so he moves his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron, and there he builds another altar to the Lord. So he's in fellowship with God. He's walking with God. He is enjoying his relationship with God. His relationship with God is good and healthy at this time. Again, even after he slipped up, we never read of Abram going to Egypt and building altars to the Lord there. That certainly was not recorded in Genesis. So we certainly do not think that happened. So while he was lying and in deceiving the Egyptians, I don't think he was in fellowship with God. Don't think he was building altars and worshiping God in that pagan country he was in. But here he is back in the place that God told him to go. He is walking with God, obeying God, and honoring God. So when we slip up, we should return as Abram did, go back to where we started, trust in him, seek reconciliation with him because he is merciful. Okay, we'll stop there tonight. You can stop recording.